Well, good Monday morning to everybody. Hope you're not facing the Monday blues or finding it hard to get out of bed this morning. That's We got snow yesterday. Can't say it was a storm. Well, I mean it was a storm, but we can't say it's this mega over-the-top storm. I think we got just over 30 centimeters. It was windy and cold. Sure, it was a good day to stay in, but man, we've had a lot worse than that. Many times. It's been a few years since we've had any big storms, but this isn't what I would call a big storm. But anyway, that's just me being me with a long memory. Reading through Genesis, where were we? 27? Yeah, 27, 28, 29, 30? Or was it 26? 26, 27, 28, 29. Anyway, you already know. I just don't retain numbers in the morning. So Rebecca knows God informed her she had two nations in her, and the older would serve the younger. He told her that. That was for her to know, not for her to do anything about. And we see that she favored the younger. She favored Jacob. And she was determined that his destiny was going to be brought about. So she used deception to ensure that the younger would be over the older. And she made a huge mess of it. Using deception, she ended up causing a huge rift between her sons. Esau wasn't of the greatest character to begin with, but it doesn't matter. She caused this rift, and so what God was going to bring about, she forced, and in her forcing, Esau lived at least a decade with hatred for his brother. And Jacob, man, how long did he work for Laban? I know over 14 years, so it was probably longer, closer to 20. And he had to live all that time with shame and guilt and fear of his brother, fear of his older brother. All because his mom interfered with what God was doing. This is a pattern. If you look at Sarah knew that God had promised a child, but she couldn't see how he could possibly bring that about. No. The circumstances are such, there's no possible way. And so she interfered. She gave her maid to her husband. She gave Hagar to Abraham, and they end up having Ishmael. But Ishmael became a problem, and it ended up later on when God fulfills his promise to Sarah, Abraham has to send away Hagar and Ishmael, who he really dearly loved. I mean, it's his firstborn son, and really made a mess of it. Lots of hurt and pain and everything there. And we see quite often through the scripture where God reveals something and then people take it in their own hands to bring it about. And we have to understand that when God lets us in on the secret, there's a role that we have, but it's not the maestro. We're not to orchestrate this thing. We're not to bring it about. We're not to use our limited, because God has this incredible thing where he's able to pull the rabbit out of the hat, where he's able to just, despite the circumstances, able to bring about his will and do all this. He knows everything. He knows every detail. He's working it all out. And we're people of limitation. We're limited, and when he gives us the privilege of knowing what he's doing, we have to be able to just trust that if he says this is what he's doing, then he's more than capable of bringing it about. You look at it's a pattern, it seems to be with mothers and sons. Because even with Mary and Jesus, we see that Mary provoked Jesus before it was time. Of course, because we're dealing with the perfect man, It didn't cause any rift. It didn't cause any problems, but potentially it could have. It could have caused problems there when Mary insisted that Jesus turn the water into wine, or at least do something about the lack of wine. She didn't know how he was going to do it. Yeah, and because we are, I'm speaking to my church here, because we're moving in the prophetic. We have to be very careful. Just because God gives us a word, we're not responsible for that. We are messengers. We carry a message. It could be, I mean, people are capable of receiving messages, people are capable of speaking with God directly, but sometimes there's interference. There's sometimes that the people either don't want to hear it, or it's an acknowledgement of what they've already received. It's always an acknowledgement of what's on their heart when we bring in the message, but it's not, listen, we just give it. God's going to do it. If he's given us insight into something, it could be because we're just bringing the message. He might be having us come along as an encourager, but we are not the orchestrator. We're not the ones who arrange these things. So we have to be very careful with it, because whenever we interfere with God's plans, we make a mess of it. It still happens. It's still, nothing can frustrate God's plans. It still happens, but to a much lesser degree. It's not the perfect plan that he had in place. It involves hurt and pain, jealousy, separation, anger, shame, guilt. All kinds of stuff comes into it that doesn't belong to us, doesn't belong to the kingdom, doesn't belong to our God. So anyway, it's going to be a good day. God is in charge, but we're in control. Let's cooperate with him. Let's take our control and just bend our knee to him and say, not my will, but yours be done today. Shall we do that? Yeah. You guys be blessed, be encouraged, and looking forward to the testimonies. God bless.